Hey, ek gaan hot chocolate maak, wie wil hê?
Right, Johanna, is joune, jy kan laat waai.
Okay, yeah, it looks like we've got 6 people tonight online for the lecture. Yeah, I've got the privilege of spending quite a lot of time with you over the next 2 months to give you some insights into what you need to know for the exam. And tonight we're starting with chapter 11 in your RAE manual, which is called Tuned Circuits. Come on. There we go. Just to go back to last week's lecture that you had regarding capacitors and inductors. A capacitor stores energy as charge, and reactance of a capacitor is 1 over 2 pi the frequency of the capacitor. And you're going to use this formula quite a lot in the next 2 lectures. So reactance of a capacitor is 1 over 2 pi the frequency times the capacitance. You can already see from the mathematics that the higher the frequency of the circuit is going to be, the lower the value of your capacitive reactance is going to be, because it's 1 over 2 pi Fc. Sorry, wrong way. Let's try the other way. Inductors. Inductors stores energy as magnetic fields, and the reactance of an inductor is just straightforward 2 pi times the frequency in hertz times the inductance in Henry. From the formula, you can already look at the mathematics and you will see that the reactance, the inductive reactance of a coil, is going to increase as the frequency goes up. It's an important one to remember. Capacitance goes down with frequency, and inductor goes up with frequency. Also from one of the previous lectures, just to recap, resistance, reactance, and impedance, those are all terms or units of measure that we have, which we describe the opposition or the resistance of the component to the current flowing in the circuit. So it's like a tap. Obviously, the more the tap is closed, the less water you'll get, and the more you open the tap, the more water you will get. So reactance, resistance, and impedance are both specified in ohms, and they are the resistance to electrical current in our circuit. Resistance is a constant frequency independent opposition. One to remember. So as the frequency changes, the resistance value of that component is not going to change. Reactance, on the other hand, is a frequency dependent opposition, and it's applicable to things like capacitors and inductors, which stores and exchanges energy all the time. Impedance is a combination of resistance and reactance. So if I take the resistance component of my circuit and I take the reactance component of my circuit and I add them together, I get impedance. That's why they say impedance is the total combined opposition in an AC circuit. I hope I haven't lost anyone. If you've got questions, I've got another screen which I can see all the people on, so just raise your hand and hopefully I will notice it, and then I can give you an answer. Now, because we said resistance, reactance, and impedance are all specified in ohms, so if we have 2 capacitors in an AC circuit, I have capacitive reactance. And to calculate the total value of the capacitive reactance, if I have 2 equal capacitors in series, I will add the 2 reactances together. If I have two identical capacitors in parallel, I would use the parallel formula to calculate the reactance. And if both the capacitors have the same value, they will obviously be the total parallel reactance would be half of the value of one of those capacitors. I think you can already see a difference to your theory of capacitors that you had in one of the previous lectures. If I look at the DC capacitance of a capacitor, if I put them in series, I'm going to reduce the overall total capacitance of the two components together. But when we work with reactance, it will actually increase. So don't get confused between the DC capacitance value of a capacitor and the capacitive reactance of a capacitor. If I put them together in series, I have to add them together. The same is applicable for inductors. If I have two inductors in series, the reactance is purely the two reactance values added together, XL1 and XL2. And if it is in parallel, I use the same formula that I've used for resistors when I did the resistor lecture. And the overall reactance would then obviously be lower than the value of the lowest inductor. Okay, that's some recap of what you should have had before. Don't know if there's any questions before we move on. Okay, don't see any hands. Now we get to the fun parts for tonight. Resonance. Everything to do with radio equipment focuses or works with resonance. The antenna needs to resonate. The front end of my radio needs to resonate. Every single building block that makes up a radio or a transmitter works with the term resonance. So in other words, you can already see from the word resonance and from the picture there is some combination of a resistor and an inductor. Now in real or in theoretical life where everything is perfect, you can compare resonance to a newly married couple going on honeymoon. Everything works perfectly. The capacitor dumps its energy into the inductor, and the inductor then dumps its energy into the capacitor, and this loop will carry on forever and ever until we separate the capacitor inductor. But in real life, unfortunately, there's losses. And that's why if you look at this picture on the screen, there's this little R component that sits there because we're not living in a perfect world. We could have forever created an oscillation or a resonance between the capacitor and the inductor if we didn't have this R component. But it does exist, and we're going to see tonight as well how do we handle it. So resonance is purely about the exchange of energy between capacitors and inductors and capacitors going around in a loop, passing the energy from the one to the other and back to the other. And this carries on until I switch the power off. Okay, that's resonance. Now we get to some mathematics to consider. On purpose, you would have seen I always put the capacitive reactance as minus, and I put the inductive reactance as a positive. Why? If you go back to one of the previous lectures, you will see that with an inductor and a capacitor, the current lags or it heads the voltage differently. In the inductor, the current is first, and then the current is last, the voltage is first, and in a capacitor, it's the other way around. Sorry, let me just shut this up. So, if I put an inductor and a capacitor in series, like the first drawing I have here, I would use the normal resistance formula where I add the reactive component XL of the inductor and I add it to the reactive component of the capacitor, but now the capacitor's value is minus. So this is the secret of resonance. When resonance occurs, the reactive value of the capacitor and the inductor will be equal. So in other words, if XL and XC is equal at resonance, the outcome in series would be 0 ohms. You agree with me? It doesn't matter what the value is. If XL is 1000 and XC is also 1000, the net result is 0 ohms. So important one when we look at the circuits of radios, a series resonance circuit will always be a short circuit at resonance. At resonance, it would be a short circuit. Now, if we look at a parallel resonance circuit, you can quickly see the mathematics. If I do the calculation, if XL and XC is the same at resonance, it's equal at resonance, the value of the circuit is going to be infinite. Mathematically, you can't divide by 0. So it becomes infinite. So a parallel circuit blocks and a series resonance circuit passes. Something to remember when we start going into the design of our receivers and transmitters. Okay, series resonance, if I subtract them from each other or I add them because the one is negative, value becomes 0. If they're in parallel, the value of the reactance becomes infinite. Okay. I'm just giving you a moment for it to sink in, hopefully. If we put it graphically, perhaps some people, it's easier to understand it graphically than mathematically. So if I look at this graph, the first graph, we said the reactance of an inductor would start at a low value at DC, and with frequency it goes higher and higher and higher. We can see that from the graph. The reactance of a capacitor, so switch the radio down. The reactance of a capacitor starts very high at DC and it moves towards 0 over frequency. So the higher the frequency, the lower the value of the reactive capacitance. Now at resonance, we said XL and XC is equal. So if we look at this circuit, resonance is roughly at about 10 megahertz there. That's the value where XL and XC are equal. So the resultant reactance would be 0 ohms. Okay. So yeah, we can clearly see it. The other thing to look at, to consider when you do radio circuits, the green line represents the result or the impedance of my my circuit. So if I'm below the resonant point of my resonant circuit, my circuit will be capacitive. If I'm above the resonant portion in frequency of my resonant circuit, my circuit is going to be inductive. Okay. Another way to look at it is this horrible graph for you, which perhaps could make some sense as well. The blue line is my inductive reactance. In other words, the resistance of the inductor at frequency to current flow. My capacitive reactance, the other blue line, is my capacitor's reactance or resistance to current flow at frequency. The red line Z is my impedance. Okay, remember when we looked at the definition of impedance, we said impedance is the combination of resistance together with reactance. So if I reach the resonant frequency, which is here, my XC and my XL values are the same. So the resultant value is 0, which means my impedance will only be equal to the resistor in the circuit. So if we just go back here again, so at resonance, the reactance of this one and this one cancel each other out. And all I remain with is the resistor in the circuit. Sorry, let's go back there. Okay, so that's just another form of representing what I'm trying to explain to you. When we get to resonance, XL, XC is the same, and the result is equal to the resistance. If we didn't have a resistance, in other words, we lived in a perfect world, we would have been on this gray line. So in other words, it would have been 0. But unfortunately, it's not a perfect world. Okay, now we get to the parallel resonance circuit. In other words, the capacitor and the inductor is in parallel with each other. Again, if we look at 10 megahertz, the value where XL and XC is the same, the resultant value would be infinite. And you can see it from the graph. Before resonance, the resistance is low, or the impedance is low. And then as I reach resonance, it shoots up to infinity. And the moment I pass the resonant point, it flips to infinite capacitively. Okay, so it's inductive before resonance, and it goes up to infinity when it reaches the resonant point, and as soon as it passes the resonant point, it becomes capacitive, and it flips to the other side, infinity. So this is the reaction of a parallel circuit when it resonates. Now you can see, because it becomes infinite, it would be the ideal thing to stop something from going further inside your radio. So if I wanted to pause something in my radio, the series resonance circuit would have been perfect, because the impedance is very close to 0 at resonance. So it is the ideal thing to pause. And a parallel circuit is the ideal thing to block, because it becomes infinitely high in impedance at resonance. This is just another circuit, another graph to show you the same effect, where I've got the resonant point. My XL and XC values are identical to each other. Okay. And this now represents current. If you look at these symbols, it's actually current. This graph is in line with current. Remember, we're blocking current. So if my resistance or my impedance becomes infinite at resonance, it means I won't have any current flowing, because I'm blocking the current from flowing. And as soon as I pass resonance, the current will start flowing again. So that's why it looks so funny. If it was the other way around, it would have been impedance, but this one that I could find is in terms of current. It shows you how it blocks the current. There's a nice big fat current there, and as I reach resonance, the current becomes negligible or nearly 0. And as soon as I pass resonance, the current goes up again, because the impedance have gone to infinite. Okay. How do we determine where this wonderful point is that they call resonance, where everybody lives happily ever after? The formula which you'll find in your book for resonance means the frequency of resonance in hertz is 1 over 2 pi the inductance in henries times the capacitance in farads. Remember, 2 pi times the inductance in henries. Remember your lecture on inductors. Inductance is measured in henries. Capacitance is measured in farads. So that's the magic formula which I can determine where these two components will be in harmony, and they will be in resonance to exchange the energy that you want between them. Okay, resonance. The purpose of a resonance circuit is either to selectively filter specific frequencies. So in other words, if I want to pass only one frequency or a small band of frequencies, I would use a series resonance circuit because it can selectively filter only specific frequencies. Or the other thing is it can efficiently generate oscillations. Radios need oscillators. We will still do the oscillator lecture on 11 August. Then we will talk about oscillators and you'll see where we use these resonance circuits in oscillators. Another definition which I got from Wikipedia for you, by pairing an inductor and a capacitor, the circuit allows energy to oscillate between them at a precise resonant frequency and minimizing or maximizing impedance to isolate signals in televisions, radios, and oscillators. Minimizing and maximizing impedance. So minimizing is series resonance and maximizing is parallel resonance. Okay. Just to put it in the picture for you, in real life, this is actually what a capacitor and an inductor would look like represented graphically in a resonance circuit. The capacitor's got some internal resistance, which is going to cause losses. And the same with the inductor. The inductor is also going to have some internal resistor, which is going to create losses for you. So if we must just remember that, and that's one of the reasons why they work with impedance. And this is not in your book, but I thought it's good for you to see where impedance comes from. Okay, let's look at this horrible graph first. This horrible graph shows me the resistance on the 0 or the x-axis, and it shows me the reactance of the component on the y-axis. And then in between the reactance component and the resistance component is the impedance, which is commonly used with the term or indicated with the term Z. Okay, so this circuit you see here is inductive because it's positive X or positive JX. It means that the reactance is inductive. If this line was below, it would have been a capacitive reactive circuit. Now at resonance, this line Z will sit on the same axis as R. So in other words, X plus X and minus X are equal to each other. So the resultant value is 0. So the only thing that's left is the resistive component. So R equals Z when we've reached resonance. Okay, so the way you would see it sometimes represented, go back. Z equals R plus Jx. Now Jx is the combination of these two values added together. The other way they can represent it for you, they say Z equals the absolute value of Z and the angle theta, which is the difference between the impedance angle and the resistance. But that's just out of interest sake. This is not in your book, but perhaps it puts some clarity for you on it. So if we just go back again to our circuit, this is a series resonance circuit. It's got a resistor and it's exchanging energy. The next thing we're going to look at, because this is now where our circuit becomes important in the radio. If I select the values for R and C badly, let's say we selected badly, this graph that you see on the side is going to look quite a lot different. So it could be a lot flatter. So it could start here, but it could only go up to that point and then back again. So the selection of my capacitor and my inductor to resonate is critical because that's going to give me something which they call the quality factor. The quality factor of a resonance circuit is a dimensionless parameter, so it's only a numerical value, that's all it is. That measures the sharpness of the circuit's resonance and its energy efficiency. So the higher the Q, the more selective the circuit, and the less energy is lost every time there's an exchange between the capacitor and the inductor of energy. Okay, so if we look at the formula for the quality factor, it's the capacitor's reactance value over the internal resistance value of the capacitor. So you can already see the smaller this internal resistance value is compared to the reactance of the capacitor, the higher my quality factor would be. So the higher this internal resistance of the capacitor is, the lower the quality factor would be. And the same is applicable for inductors. And this is where the people that design radios, they look at, and that's why there's so many different capacitors in the world. Because every capacitor type has got its own unique characteristics. And if I want a specific Q value for my circuit, let's just go back here, sorry, this one. If I want a specific Q value for my circuit, I've got to make sure I select the right type of capacitor and the right type of inductor so that I get the quality factor that I want to pass my frequencies. Why is this important? This is 3 different resonance circuits, all resonating at 8 megahertz. Let's say it's 8 megahertz from this graph. But the one circuit has got a very high Q, this red one. It's got an incredibly high Q. The blue one is less. And the green one is somewhat a really pathetic little resonance circuit. It's got a low Q value. So if I am operating at 8 megahertz with my radio and there's interference at 9 megahertz, there's a big signal from the neighbors, whatever, his solar system that is interfering with my radio at 9 megahertz. You can already see from this graph, I need a radio which has got a very high Q value front end, so that it only passes the frequency that I'm operating on and it doesn't pass the neighbor's garbage. If my radio circuit looked like the green one, okay, I would have had a problem because the neighbor's noise that he's generating is just as high as the signal that I'm trying to receive from another radio amateur. So this is the practical side of a Q factor. Normally an oscillator, you don't want a very high Q factor. And when we get to oscillators, I'll explain to you why. But depending on what I'm trying to do, I've got to look at the Q factor of my circuit. If I'm operating a transmitter, I'm more than likely going to look at something that's got a medium quality factor. Okay, so that's the quality factor of a resonance circuit. Okay, where are we now? 28. Questions? Yes, either I've confused everybody or I don't know. Stefan? Is it Stefan? Stefan?
Ja, Stefan, mag ons daai prente, daai diagramme of wat ook al, kan ons dit kry?
The lecture is recorded and Henry posts it on the group, so you've got access to the recorded presentation.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I use is not in your manual. If the manual, the SRL manual is reasonable, I would use something out of it. In some of the lectures, you'll see I do use stuff out of the manual, but I like to use stuff which is perhaps a bit more graphic sometimes. It's just the way I like my lectures. Okay, any more questions?
Johan, ek dink hierdie is awesome. Dit help om die teorie en die prakties bietjie nader mekaar te bring. Dankie daarvoor.
Okay. Henry, do you want to go through the questions?
Johan, ja, jy's welkom om deur dit te gaan. Daar's nog baie tyd oor.
Okay. Just out of interest, when you look at the recording of the presentation, the answers to the questions would be on the last page of the presentation. So if you want to work through the questions again at a later stage on your own, just look at the presentation. At the end of it, there is answers to the questions. But we will go through the questions. I just want to share another screen. Okay. Here's my mouse and share. Come on. Zip. Okay, so if we go to the questions at the end of the chapter. And I'm going to just make this a bit bigger. Just give me a sec. I just want to change this mouse back to normal. It's difficult working with a mouse with a pointer that's so big. Okay, that's better. Now I'm on a normal mouse again. Okay, so question 1. At one particular frequency, resonance of a capacitor and an inductor takes place. At this frequency, what would the answer be?
I'd go with C.
D.
Nope.
I think D.
D, delta.
D.
Okay.
D.
Remember we said the capacitive
yes,
reactance
sorry.
and the inductive reactances are equal. Yes, the one is negative and the one is positive, but because they are equal, if you add them together, the net result will be 0. So yes, the impedance, well, it doesn't say, yeah, you see, it doesn't say it's a parallel or a series circuit. So the impedance isn't null. Okay, so it is D. Then parallel tuned circuit impedance at resonance is
Charlie.
infinitely high, C. If you look at the mathematics, you'll see you end up with con divided by 0, which is infinity. A series tuned circuit impedance at resonance is
Low.
low. So A. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
The Q of a parallel resonance circuit determines the
Losses.
A.
losses of the circuit. Okay. Because obviously, if you look at that formula, it's reactance over resistance. So the higher the resistance of the resonance circuit is, the bigger the losses would be of that stupid resistor that gets in the way of resonance. Selectivity of a resonance circuit is greater if the Q factor is
I.
high, C. Yeah. Just move this up. Okay, the resonant frequency of a tuned circuit consisting of a 10 nanofarad capacitor in parallel with a 10 Henry inductor is approximately okay. What did we say the formula was? We said the formula is 1 over 2 pi LC. So it is 1 over 2 pi times 10 to the power minus 6, because it is microhenries, times 10 to 10 to the power 9, because it's nanofarad. And then what value would you get?
I think there's also the square root, so LC must be in the square root. So I get 500 kilohertz.
500 kilohertz, yes. At 6A, 500 kilohertz. Okay, you have a 100 microhenry inductor and wish to create a tuned circuit with a resonant frequency of 3.5 megahertz. What value of capacitor would you require?
I hope I'm not off, but I got 21 picofarads.
Yes, 21 picofarads is correct. Okay, you have a 10 picofarad capacitor and wish to create a tuned circuit with a resonant frequency of 10 megahertz. What's the value of the inductor?
I got 25 microhenry.
Yes, correct. 25 microhenries.
So what formula are you using for that? If I might ask, because I battled with that.
So
one,
I
but
just
yes.
I rearranged the resonance formula.
Okay,
So-
yeah, you just
Yeah, I
Okay,
just
that's for the-
rearranged it.
that's for the
Yeah.
clever guys, not for the guys that done it 50 years ago.
But
All
but
right.
the nice thing is when you rearrange it like L and C, it's the same form that comes out. You can just swap like L and C around.
Yeah.
So at least you only need to rearrange it once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ask for Google. It's easier.
Yeah. Okay, that was my lecture for the evening, gents.
Thank you
Henry?
so much.
Yes, ek luister vir jou, Johan. Ek gaan die recording stop, né?
Yeah, that's fine.